Moment Russian soldiers on motorbikes speed across dirt fields, kicking up plumes of dust as artillery shells slam into the earth around them. These kamikaze-style assaults, backed by drones overhead, have become a hallmark of Moscow's grinding advance at the junction of Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts. Ride or die. You have 3 to 5 seconds to react is the instruction given to Russian motorcycle soldiers to evade the Ukrainian FPV drones stalking them. With more and more motorcycle assault groups, Russia is hoping to war of aggression against Ukraine for a breakthrough on the front in the Donbass. A soldier rides beside him with a rifle in his hand, eyes scanning the sky, ready to shoot down incoming threats. We pass a steady stream of trucks and heavy armored vehicles, many fitted with makeshift cages and added plating, looking like a scene from a Mad Max movie. The trucks have electronic warfare systems in the hope of protecting them from enemy drones. But the additional improvised armor has become a necessity against the constant threat from above. If the truck stops at any point, even for a brief moment, leave your gear and run for cover under a tree, Drunya warns. After a certain point, the driver switches off the light and turns on his night vision goggles. This is where the enemy drones present the greatest threat. Any mistake by the driver could mean being spotted and hit. The modern-day cavalry charges mark a shift from the early days of the full-scale invasion, when heavy armor was vital. The battlefield now is characterized by relentless rounds of drone fire, close-contact infantry fighting, and suicidal assaults. In this part of the front, Ukrainian drones dominate the skies, turning a 10 to 15 kilometer, 6 to 10 mile zone near the zero line into a deadly kill zone. For Ukraine, the front line is also a constant test of endurance and ingenuity against an enemy that shows little regard for the lives of its own troops. Under the cover of night, Drunya drives a pickup truck, loaded with fresh, first-person view, FPV, drones and explosives, towards the front to resupply an FPV bomber crew from the Unmanned Systems Battalion of Ukraine's 110 Separate Mechanized Brigade. Russian motorcycle tactics are also in a constant state of flux. In the beginning, there were a few, and then more and more reconnaissance vehicles that sounded out gaps and weaknesses in the Ukrainian defense for the following combat and infantry fighting vehicles. Nowadays, the Russian army forms entire motorcycle assault groups in squads, groups, and even platoons, depending on the target. Serhiy rushes outside to prepare the next FPV drone, then returns to the dugout. Bogdan locks back onto the position where the Russian motorcycles were last spotted, while Andriy guides him towards specific streets in a nearby village. Bogdan manages to hit 2 soldiers. Several others scatter. Some slip into houses and others vanish into the tree line. They're sending expendable infantry just so a Mavic drone can spot where our artillery is firing from, Bogdan says as he guides the FPV away from the unit's position. Bogdan says Kyiv is properly committed to increasing drone production after the long and bloody battle for Avdiivka, which saw Russian forces take the city in February 2024. If Ukraine had access to more artillery, it wouldn't have needed to rely as much on drones, he says. But the two complement each other. Reconnaissance with drones then strikes with artillery, he says. Artillery can hit sectors, but it can't chase someone into a basement. Drones can't do much in a forest, but artillery can flush people out. By early afternoon, Bogdan had already killed and wounded several Russian infantrymen. It is then that the Russians begin their motorcycle assaults. The mood among the soldiers shifts as they grow more alert. The route to the position is a rough dirt track, and the truck moves fast over the broken path, sending the passengers' helmets bouncing against the ceiling. Along the way, scorched patches of earth are still burning from a recent Russian glide bomb strike. Once we reach the position a few kilometers from the zero line, supplies are unloaded in seconds, and we sprint for the cover of the trench. Shortly afterwards, over the radio, we hear that the driver was ambushed by a Russian drone and only narrowly survived. The soldiers say the most nerve-wracking part is always the drop-off and pickup, when the position is most exposed to attack. In the dugout, Bogdan is the drone pilot conducting FPV bombing missions as the Russians begin a meat grinder-style assault, sending waves of infantry on foot across open fields in a bid to breach Ukrainian positions in nearby villages.
Огонь!
Their chance of survival is near zero, says Bogdan. They're here because they're drug users, convicts, or people drowning in debt. Andriy sets up the range extender for Bogdan and supports coordination while Serhiy grabs the FPV drone and arms the detonator above ground. Bogdan straps on his goggles and launches. Bogdan pilots drone after drone without pause as the bikers keep coming. Just 5 days earlier, a Russian soldier on a motorcycle breached their dugout. The troops grabbed their rifles and shot him at point-blank range. Nearby, a reconnaissance unit's Mavic drone provides a live video feed and spots a badly camouflaged enemy Starlink terminal, likely being used by a Russian drone unit. Bogdan flies the FPV towards it and destroys it. On the screen, several Russian soldiers on motorcycles tear through the dirt fields, kicking up pillars of dust as they close in. They're about 5 kilometers away from us now, Andriy says, eyes fixed on the feed. If the stream holds, we can manage. Amid the swarm of Russian riders, artillery explosions ignite the fields, and smoke slowly engulfs the drone feed. From the Mavic's view above, the landscape resembles hell, charred earth, craters, and rising plumes of fire. Bodin spots a Russian soldier sprinting beneath the smoke, using it as cover. As he brings the drone closer, the connection cuts in and out, but he steadies it, circling around the soldier to get a clearer view. Once the path is clear, he locks onto the target and sends the drone hurtling straight towards him. Ukrainian soldiers in the village still remain in defensive positions. The Russians will carry out a sweep house by house, Andriy explains. If they come under fire, they'll either shoot back, retreat, or die. The Ukrainian infantry there will either hold to the end or fall back. Bodin reflects on the difference between being on the ground and directing drones from a distance. The hunt continues, but then the command center loses visual, possibly due to enemy jamming. Bodin flies back to the area, but eventually runs out of battery. We won't be able to clear it anymore, Andriy says of the nearby village. If they've entered, then either the guys holding the position fight them off completely, or a new offensive is launched. Our assault troops will need to take it back. The emotions are completely different when you kill someone with a rifle versus doing it from afar, he says. When you're hovering 6 kilometers away, you don't hear their last breath or how they scream. Throughout the night, it's difficult to get any rest as the position comes under constant artillery bombardment, with Russian forces launching periodic storm assaults. They're taking land, but at such a cost that no army can afford it, Andriy says. Russia is now estimated to have lost at least 220,000 men killed, and the number continues to rise without pause. When it's finally time to rotate out after several days in position, the soldiers pack their gear and wait for the call over the radio. The driver arrives and the incoming crew rushes in, tossing their supplies to the ground. Moments later, the distinct buzz of an FPV drone cuts through the air. Every soldier scrambles, grabbing rifles, preparing to run and fire at it. But the drone passes. Without wasting a second, they pile into the pickup truck for the drive through the kill zone, with each bend a potential ambush point. Here, Ukrainian forces are expanding their control by securing more key positions to prevent the Russians in the encirclements from having any chance of survival. The last Russian hope in the form of elite reinforcements sent to the rescue is being shattered, with the Ukrainians having them firmly in their crossfire. The tactic behind it: crossing the no man's land, now known as the drone trench, as quickly as possible. This gives the Ukrainian defenders, who form a protective screen in front of the positions with their reconnaissance and FPV drones, as little time and as few usable targets as possible. Enduros from the Chinese brand Brismoto are heavily advertised, with 250 cubic centimeters and 21 horsepower or 300 cubic centimeters and 25 horsepower. The cheapest models cost the equivalent of around 1,500 to 1,800 euros. The bikes are highly off-road capable and can reach speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour on the road. Russian military television broadcasts show training rides and clips of attacks with such motorcycles. If the motorcycle group passes through the area controlled by reconnaissance and attack drones, the motorcycles are abandoned and the soldiers immediately engage in hand-to-hand combat. Videos from the Donbass show fighting between Russians and Ukrainians within hand grenade range. The images of the battlefield are not sharp enough to clearly identify the brands and types of motorcycles. The only thing that is clear is that they did not come from Russia. The Russian motorcycle industry never went much beyond copying the BMW R71 from the Second World War, developed much further. Neither Ural nor Dnieper or ISCH were able to make any technological leaps forward. Sharper pictures of symbolic handovers of motorcycles to the troops provide more information. The Russian instructions to the motorcycle soldiers see the motorcycle as an opportunity, not as protection by armor. The time from detection by a reconnaissance drone to the appearance of FPV drones is given as 30 to 90 seconds. If a drone is detected, the group should split up at a distance of at least 50 meters from each other. Riders are advised to take refuge in hollows, in the forest, or between trees. Light motorcycles are particularly suitable for this tactic. In turn, this would secure the flank of their clearing operation, making its way south, and deny the Russians any chance to counterattack from above. Notably, Siersky commented that they have found a way to crush the enemy, with a special focus on the neutralization of the recently redeployed Russian 155th Marine Brigade, notorious for the Bucha massacre. Labeled as Putin's favorite brigade, it has been a focal point for Ukrainian attention wherever they are deployed, and the unit has been decimated and rebuilt at least 13 times due to heavy personnel losses, now once again facing determined Ukrainian retribution. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Siersky is monitoring the battle closely, visiting the Pokrovsk and Dobropilya sectors multiple times in recent days. He frequently gathers his corps commanders together to discuss and plan out the next steps, react to Russian movements, and ensure his forces on the ground have everything they need to accomplish their missions. The next Syrskis operation puts the focus southwest of Volodymyrivka, with the goal of keeping Russian pockets cut off and unable to consolidate the gray zone. If we look at the topographic map, we will see that by advancing to the southeast and strengthening their positions here, Ukrainians will effectively seize control of the entire high ground. Day and night, Ukrainian FPV drones hunt Russian soldiers attempting to slip through Novotoretsky's ruins, while ambush teams wait in destroyed buildings. This systematic elimination campaign has turned Russia's last hope into a meat grinder, consuming every reinforcement sent forward. The Russians are clinging to their final chance near Dobropilya, and their desperate plan is to push in fresh reinforcements and claw back Novotoretska, which currently lies in the gray zone, where some houses are held by Ukrainian troops and the rest are dominated by Ukrainian drones. The Russians see this as their only way to reconnect with their trapped pockets. But the reality is harsh. Every approach is under Ukrainian fire control. Every move is watched, and every soldier sent forward risks elimination before even reaching the front line. Despite some Russian presence in a trench fortification across Novotoretska, these remnants are unable to move outside due to relentless strikes. The Russians' last hope is quickly unraveling, as geolocated footage shows Novotoretsky crawling with Russian soldiers trying to slip through, but instead being cut down by swarms of Ukrainian FPV drones. Day and night, Ukrainian operators track even single infiltrators, striking them with ruthless efficiency. Those who manage to survive the drones face Ukrainians waiting in ambush, kept safe against Russian counterattacks from the high ground. On the southern edge of Novotoretsky, two Ukrainian soldiers hidden in a ruined house let a group of 8 Russians approach. At the perfect moment, they opened fire, dropping 3 instantly and finishing the rest with grenade launchers as FPV drones swooped in to complete the kill. Hours later, another assault group was annihilated as they tried to rush forward on motorcycles.